The gala was supposed to be a night of champagne, chandeliers, and elite reputation. Sarah was brought on stage to sign away her future and prove loyalty to the family that had been blackmailing her. Hundreds of wealthy guests watched, expecting another polished announcement from a powerful dynasty. Instead, the giant screen lit up with the truth: staged photos, hidden recordings, charity money moved offshore, and a real estate empire built on fraud. In one night, the city's most untouchable family became the scandal everyone would remember.
I always crash hard at my in-laws. I wake up Messi's lipstick smeared, while Leo just laughs. Then, I found the hidden mic. His brother Mark ordered someone to scan my face with my laptop while I was out. I am Maya, a forensic accountant who hunts corporate fraud. Leo Vance was my golden boy fiancé from a powerful elite family. Their estate felt like a fortress. Sunday dinners were rituals where Evelyn grilled me about my paycheck. That night, the air felt heavy. A chemical fog dragged me under. Leo handed me a glass of water and then darkness. I woke up shivering under a chandelier. My mouth tasted like cotton. I tried to sit up, but my limbs felt like lead. I was on the leather sofa. My silk blouse was buttoned completely wrong. The fabric was a wreck. I touched my face. My lipstick was smeared everywhere. Before I could fix myself, a cold voice cut through the air. Look who finally decided to wake up. My future mother-in-law, Evelyn, stood there holding a crystal glass, radiating pure disgust. I expected concern. She just laughed. You look like you stumbled out of a cheap motel. I rasped that I only had one glass of wine. Evelyn rolled her eyes. You embarrass my son, then pass out like a common addict. I told Leo that bringing a girl from your background was a mistake. We are the Vances. We have a reputation. You parade around with your accounting title, acting successful. Her words stung. As I fixed my shirt, I felt a chilling gap on my back. My bra strap was unhooked. This wasn't an accident. Someone had undressed me while I was unconscious. My stomach churned. I wanted to scream. I clutched my blouse, tears of humiliation burning my eyes. Where was Leo? The study door creaked open. Mark, my brother-in-law, stepped into the light. He adjusted his cuffs, his eyes scanning my disheveled hair. A sinister smirk spread across his face. Before he could speak, Leo burst through the door, clutching my coat. He grabbed my arm with a grip that was way too tight. Come on, Maya, he muttered, sounding annoyed. We are leaving. You have caused enough of a scene. I stumbled to my feet. He just dragged me toward the exit. I looked back and saw Evelyn and Mark exchanging a look of pure satisfaction. It was chilling. The night air hit me as Leo shoved me in his luxury car. He slammed the door and gunned the engine. The drive away from that neighborhood was suffocating. I sat there shivering, fixing my buttons with trembling fingers. Leo, I said, my voice breaking. Someone took my clothes off. My bra was unhooked. He did not do this. Leo gripped the wheel until his knuckles turned white. Are you listening to yours? He snapped, dripping with condescension. You are being ridiculous. You embarrassed my mother. And now you are blaming my family for your own sloppy behavior. I shook my head, tears prickling. No, Leo, I felt drugged. My body went numb. Leo replied smoothly, his tone shifting to patronizing. You were just hot and tearing your shirt open. My mother tried to help. You are a forensic accountant. You hunt criminal all day. You are just stressed out and paranoid. No one wants to hurt you. Stop bringing your work stress home or you will ruin us. I sank back against the leather seat, a tear sliding down. He was weaponizing my career to make me question my sanity. The drive home was a blur of silence. I told him I needed space. He walked away. Once the elevator dinged, I locked my apartment door. I needed my best friend to tell me I was not losing my mind. I grabbed my 2 phones. One was a secure device for work. It was a digital vault for sensitive evidence. I pressed the power button and froze. The screen glowed red. Device locked after 15 failed passcode attempts. My heart hammered. This phone used biometrics. I had not touched it since leaving it in my bag at their estate. Someone had tried to break in while I was unconscious. Everything clicked. They weren't covering for a wardrobe mishap. They had drugged me to steal my federal audit files. Mark wasn't just a creepy relative. He was the one trying to hack my life. My work computer held sensitive data for dozens of federal cases. This was a felony. Still shaky, I grabbed my heavy laptop and hit power. The system scanned for my face. I stared into the glass. It asked for my complex, 32-character passcode. I typed it fast. As the desktop loaded, a bright yellow banner flashed. Unauthorized biometric attempt detected. 8:45 p.m. That was the exact moment I was out cold on the Vance sofa. I checked the logs. Someone had tried to force the scan multiple times. The security scanner needs a live retina. Mark had shoved my unconscious head toward the screen to bypass my files. My stomach turned. They violated my body and my professional ethics. Why, I hadn't been auditing their firm. Or had I? I needed to know how they drugged me. I sat still, replaying the evening. 1 glass of water. Mark poured it from a crystal carafe. Then dinner. Evelyn served the mushroom soup herself. She hovered, watching me with that thin, fake smile until I finished the first few bites. She didn't serve anyone else. She called it a special recipe. Within 20 minutes, my vision blurred and my legs went heavy. Evelyn drugged me in her own home. A cold, sharp anger replaced my fear. I am a forensic accountant. I spend my life exposing the lies of arrogant, powerful people. I tear down their facades. If they thought they could drug me and hack my government files, they picked the wrong person. But I couldn't move yet. Leo had gaslit me into doubting my own mind. It would be my word against one of the wealthiest families in the state. I need ironclad evidence. I opened a private browser and visited a site for corporate espionage. I needed something hidden. I found it. A tiny high-definition camera and audio recorder disguised as a pearl blouse button. It matched the silk shirts I wore to their Sunday dinners. The battery lasted for hours. I paid with a prepaid untraceable card. For days. I played the part. I texted Leo, apologizing for my stress, just like he wanted. By Thursday, the button arrived. I spent the night sewing it onto my favorite silk blouse, testing the feed on my phone. The mic caught a whisper from across the room. I was ready. Friday night. I was auditing files when my phone buzzed. A text from Leo. I froze. He wanted me at his parents' Sunday barbecue with my work laptop. His dad needed help with real estate numbers. A dark, cold smile crossed my face. They were desperate, and that was exactly how I would break them. They saw me as a naive temp to be used and tossed away. I typed a breezy yes. The trap was set. Sunday was humid, mirroring the dread in my gut. The party was pure theater white tents, a string quartet, and staff serving the elite. Leo's father, Marcus, stood by the grill sipping bourbon, while a private chef worked. Evelyn held court on the patio, looking like the untouchable queen of high society. I walked through the gates, clutching my laptop and purse. My silk blouse felt cool, but the tiny camera button near my collarbone felt like armor. I had tested the angle for hours. Leo spotted me, flashing that practiced, hollow smile. He kissed my cheek and snatched the laptop like a trophy. Good girl, he murmured, setting it on a glass table. Dad is going to love you for this. He has tax records he needs you to untangle. I offered a weak, submissive smile. We walked toward Clara and her husband Victor, who eyed my sensible shoes with obvious disdain. Look who joined us, Clara drawled, swirling her champagne. I am surprised you aren't buried in a cubicle today. Maya. Must be exhausting building wealth from scratch without a trust fund. Victor added, his tone dripping with fake pity. Right, Maya. I gave a polite nod and reached up to adjust my collar. With a firm, deliberate press on the pearl, I activated the recorder. A tiny buzz confirmed the camera was live. Every insult, every smug look, and every bit of their cruel facade was streaming to a secure server. Leo walked over with a vibrant cocktail in a heavy glass. Here, babe, he said. Mango margarita. You look tense. This will help you relax. Thanks, Leo, I said, meeting his gaze. Time to play the role of a lifetime. I lifted the glass. The sweet citrus scent was strong, clearly masking whatever sedative they had spiked it with. As Leo turned to greet a guest, I grabbed a thick linen napkin. In one swift move, I pretended to sip, then spat the liquid into the fabric. I repeated the charade 3 times. I touched the rim, fake a swallow, and dumped the rest. Soon, only ice remained. Time to sell the poison. I let my eyelids grow heavy. When Marcus asked about capital gains, I slurred my words, blinking slowly as if fighting a fog. I let my knees buckle, swaying on the patio stones. Lee was there instantly, his hands gripping my arms with familiar, bruising pressure. Whoa there, he announced loudly for the crowd. Heat and tequila are hitting you hard. Maya. I let my head fall against his chest. I need to sit, I mumbled. He steered me inside the quiet living room. It was the same room with the same leather sofa. He laid me down, and I went limp. I focused on my breathing, making it deep and rhythmic like a drug sleep. My eyes stayed shut. For a moment, party sounds drifted in. Then, the heavy glass doors clicked shut. I heard the lock slide. The chatter outside died instantly. The fake warmth vanished. The room went cold. Elena's voice cut the silence. Gone was the southern charm, replaced by a sharp, icy demand. Hurry, rip her top off. I lay frozen, heart hammering. Footsteps closed in the click of Elena's heels and the heavy thud of Victor's loafers. Rough hands grabbed my blouse. It was Clara. She fumbled with the pearl buttons, the very buttons recording every move. How degrading, Clara muttered. Reeking of cheap gin. Why me? Look at this tacky lingerie. Julian sighed from the patio doors. If she wakes up and spots me, my boyfriend act is ruined. He snapped, drained of all pretense. Just do it, Clara. We are out of time. A chill hit my chest as she yanked the silk buttons apart. No care at all. Then Victor's heavy, cold hands reached around, fumbling with my bra clasp. Nausea surged. But I kept my breathing steady. I could not break now. This violation was vile, but the high-definition footage was the final nail in their coffins. Watch for bruises, Elena ordered coldly. She needs to think she got overheated and stripped herself. If she spots marks, she goes to the police, and we lose the federal database access. I grabbed the laptop, Victor announced, stepping back. Dad says the auditors hit Tuesday. His voice strained with panic. $5 million. That is what your father laundered through this firm. If the feds trace these ghost accounts, we are finished. Our entire empire is built on fraud. If they find the truth, we all go to prison. Calm down, Vanessa snapped. That is why we need her. A federal investigator in the family is an asset. She has high-level security clearance. And her biometric logging gets us past the firewall. We need her credentials to scrub the audit flag. By the time she wakes up, the red flag will be gone. I lay there, hearing every word. They were not just socialites. They were desperate criminals. Their world was a $5 million lie. The scale of the betrayal was staggering. It clicked. Malcolm never loved my ambition. He wanted an unwitting accomplice and a scapegoat. I heard my laptop click open. Spencer let out a grunt. Needs a biometric scan, he muttered, tapping keys. A password is not enough, Malcolm. Get over here and hold her steady so I can scan her face. I felt the sofa cushion sink as he sat beside me. The man who kissed my forehead hours ago was now pinning me down. He slid his arms under my shoulders, propping me against his chest. His cologne, once comforting, now smelled like poison. He angled my head so it would not slump. Bring the laptop closer, Malcolm commanded, his voice cold and clinical. We only have a few tries before the system locks down. The machine slid across the glass. I kept my face slack, refusing to twitch as Spencer loomed over me. He smelled like sweat and pure panic. I felt his heat as he leaned in. All right, sweetheart, he whispered against my ear. Time to save the family. He gripped my chin, fingers digging in. I felt the cold screen against my skin. I knew what was coming. I had to play the part. I had to stay the unconscious victim. The security software boded. A sharp, robot chime cut the silence. Retinal scan required. Please open eyes. Damn it, Spencer hissed, slamming his fist down. She is out cold. The scanner knows she is sleeping. Malcolm groaned, letting my head drop back. What now? The auditors arrive in 2 days. If that flag stays, the company burns. Yvonne paced, heels clicking like a countdown. If we can't force the machine, we will have to force her to help us. She snapped, her voice like stone. Jasmine, grab your phone. Keep the flash off. I heard fabric rustling as she pulled it out. What are we doing? Jasmine asked, her voice shaking. Securing our leverage, Yvonne replied. Spencer, sit next to her. Loosen your shirt and put your arm around her waist. Make it look intimate. Nausea washed over me. I wanted to fight them off and scream, but I stayed dead weight. This was total humiliation. The sofa dipped as my brother-in-law climbed on. He smelled like cheap wine and nerves. His hand slid around my waist, his grip aggressive. He pressed his chest against my shoulder, pinning me down. Lower, Spencer, Yvonne commanded like a twisted director. Make it look like a real affair. Malcolm, back off. We need it to look like she snuck away from our party, to sleep, with her sister-in-law's husband right here in the living room. I heard the faint shudder of Jasmine's phone. Every click was a blow to my dignity and proof of their depravity. They were framing me to protect themselves. As a federal forensic accountant, my reputation was everything. I held high-level security clearance. If these photos of me drunk and half-dressed with my fiancé's brother hit my firm or our community, my career would be destroyed. They knew exactly how to break me. They wanted to use these fake photos to blackmail me into erasing their $5 million debt. I endured Spencer's weight and his hot breath on my neck. I kept my breathing steady, knowing the tiny pearl button on my collar was recording every word of their conspiracy. It caught Yvonne's cold orders, Jasmine's sick compliance, and the cowardly silence of the man who promised to marry me. "That is enough," Jasmine said, lowering her phone. "I have 20 shots. She looks wasted and he looks like he was just caught." "It is perfect." Spencer slid off the sofa, adjusting his shirt. "Good," he muttered, fueled by the rush. "When we tell her to clear that audit trail tomorrow, she will have no choice. She will do exactly what we say to save her career." I had all the evidence I needed to put them all in federal prison. It was time to end this nightmare before they tried anything worse. I let out a low, deliberate groan, rolling my head and shifting my legs. The room exploded into chaos. I heard Jasmine gasp and the frantic scramble of feet as they scattered like rats. Spencer lunged toward the patio, pretending to admire the view. Yvonne grabbed a magazine, flipping pages with fake calm. I fluttered my eyes open, acting groggy and lost. The chandelier light made me squint. I lifted my head, scanning the room with a look of pure confusion. My gaze dropped to my chest. I gasped in manufactured horror, seeing my blouse open. I scrambled upright, clutching the silk against my skin. Malcolm rushed over, slipping back into his role as the loving boyfriend. "Hey babe, you are awake," he said, reaching for my shoulder. "You got overheated and passed out. You must have torn your shirt trying to cool down." I looked at him, stunned by how easily he lied to my face. My hands shook as I buttoned my blouse over the recorder. "I did not do this," I stammered, voice raspy and weak just like a woman waking from a drug-induced haze. "I need to leave, Malcolm. I need to go home." "Of course, sweetie," Yvonne chimed in from across the room. Her tone dripped with fake, motherly concern. "You had too much to drink in the heat. Go sleep it off at home." I did not look at her or the others. I focused on buttoning my shirt and grabbing my laptop. Malcolm tried to take it, but I yanked it away, hugging it to my chest along with my purse. "I can carry it," I muttered, refusing to meet his lying gaze. "Just get me to my car." Walking through the sprawling estate was a blur. Julian guided me past the front doors, leaving his toxic family behind. They likely thought they had won, that I was just a naive, ashamed woman running for the hills. But as the cool night air hit my face, I gripped the tiny pearl button on my collar. It was recording, holding the sickening truth about my fiancé's family. The drive back to my condo was suffocating. Julian kept glancing over, fishing for a reaction. But I stared out the window. I watched the streetlights blur, fighting to keep my hands steady. When we pulled into my parking garage, he insisted on walking me up, playing the devoted protector to perfection. We rode the elevator in total silence. I stepped inside and dropped my purse on the island. Julian followed, locking the deadbolt behind him. He let out a dramatic sigh, rubbing his face like he was exhausted. "You really scared us today, Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with fake, gentle concern. "My mother was terrified when you collapsed. You should take time off." "Babe, this job is ruining your health and making you act paranoid." I stood on the other side of the granite island, using it as a barrier. I looked at the man I planned to marry, his handsome face, his tailored suit, and that soft expression he wore it like a cheap mask. The last bit of love I had for him evaporated, replaced by a cold, burning fury. My apartment was my sanctuary, bought with my own hard-earned money from years of forensic counting. Now, his presence felt like an infection. I reached for my collar, gripped the pearl button, and yanked it off. I placed the tiny recorder on the granite. "What is that?" Julian asked, head tilted in fake confusion. I did not answer. I pulled out my phone and opened the encrypted app linked to the camera. I cranked the volume and hit play. The audio filled the room. Elena's sharp, cold voice echoed off the walls, ordering them to strip my top off. Then I heard his sister mocking my clothes. Then Julian snapped back, telling her to hurry, worried I might wake. The audio of Marcus plotting to use my retinal scan for their $5 million scam played loud and clear. I watched Julian, waiting for panic. I wanted him begging for mercy. But Julian didn't flinch. He stood frozen, listening to the recording of his family violating me. As the audio detailed their sick plan, His fake concern melted into a chilling, hollow emptiness. He loosened his tie, his mouth curling into an arrogant smirk. He walked into my living room, sat in my velvet chair, and crossed his legs like he was at a board meeting. A dark chuckle escaped him. My skin crawled. "I am genuinely impressed, Sarah," he said, his fake warmth gone. "My mother thought you were just a boring accountant, but I knew you were sharp. You actually bugged your own clothes. That is federal agent-level paranoia right there." I shivered, staring at him. "You are a monster, Julian," I whispered. "Your family is vile. You drugged me. You used my face to hack a federal database for your $5 million fraud. This goes to the FBI tomorrow. You will rot in prison." Julian just leaned back, looking at me with patronizing pity. "You are smart, babe," he said with a cruel smile, "but you are always one step behind." He pulled out his phone and made a single call. His eyes stayed on mine. "She knows," he muttered, bored. "Come up." He tossed the phone onto my table. "What did you do?" I demanded, heart pounding. He checked his watch, flashing a sociopathic grin. "You thought I came to apologize?" he sneered. "We own this city, sweetheart. We do not lose to girls who clip coupons." Then a heavy pounding shook my home. Julian pulled the door wide. My blood turned to ice. The entire Sterling family stood there. Arthur led, rigid. Evelyn followed, heels clicking. They blocked the exit. They stood like conquerors. I was trapped, surrounded by the monsters I had just exposed. Arthur stood by the door, arms crossed. Evelyn stepped forward. Victoria's smug look made my blood boil, but I stayed still. Silas reached into his jacket and tossed a manila envelope onto the granite. The flap opened, spilling glossy photos. My breath hitched. They were expertly framed. There I was on their sofa, blouse open, bra exposed. Head back, eyes closed, it looked like pure ecstasy. Beside me, Silas looked like a secret lover. His shirt was unbuttoned, his hand on my stomach, without knowing the truth. Even I would have believed the lie. "You take terrible photos when you are drunk, Sarah," Victoria sneered, "but the lighting is flattering." I met Evelyn as cold stare. "What do you want?" I asked. She slammed her hands on the counter. "We want what is best for the family. We built this real estate empire from the ground up. We are Chicago elite. We have a liquidity issue and a federal investigator digging into our accounts." "A liquidity issue," I repeated in disbelief. "You mean a $5 million fraudulent loan?" Arthur barked, face turning crimson. "Watch your mouth. We just need a bridge for the next quarter. And that is where you come in." Evelyn slid documents across the granite. "This is a guarantor agreement," she said. "It binds you to the debt. With your credit and clearance, the bank will approve the extension and the audit." I asked. Julian tapped the counter. "You use your forensic credentials to log into the database tomorrow. Wipe the red flag on our tax ID and bury the trail so no federal agent ever finds it." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "And if I refuse to sign my life away?" Silas moved up, standing by his mother. "Then the photos go public, babe," he said. "We send them to your firm. Your church, everyone. We protect our own, but we destroy outsiders," Evelyn smirked. "When the world sees these photos of you with your brother-in-law, your career is finished. You will be fired, stripped of your clearance, and disgraced. You will lose this condo and end up back in the slums." Their threat hit me like a physical blow. I was trapped. If I fought back, they would ruin me instantly. I needed time. I needed them gone so I could burn their empire down, so I gave them the performance of a lifetime. Shoulders slumped, breath quickening. I stared at the photos and forced a ragged sob. I let my knees buckle, collapsing on the floor. I covered my face, weeping in manufactured panic. "Please," I begged, voice trembling. "I worked so hard. I fought my way out of poverty, Silas. You can't let them." He watched me with pure disgust. I grabbed the counter to pull myself up. "I will do it," I sobbed. "I will sign, but I need time, not tomorrow." "Why not?" Arthur demanded. "Because the federal firewall is complex," I lied, forcing another sob. "If I delete the logs now, it triggers an alert. I have to build a backdoor script to fake a glitch. It takes time. If I rush, we all get caught. Give me 3 days." The room went dead silent. Evelyn exchanged glances. Julian nodded, buying the technical jargon. 3 days, Evelyn said. "Our anniversary gala is this Friday. You will attend as Silas's fiancé. You will bring your laptop. You will sign before our lawyers and wipe the audit while we watch." I nodded frantically. "Yes," I promised, crying harder. "Friday night. Please do not release those photos." "She is pathetic," Victoria laughed. "I told you she was weak." Evelyn turned toward the door. "Get up, Alicia," she ordered with contempt. "See you Friday." "Do not try anything stupid." They filed out. Silas smirked down at me. "See you Friday, babe," he whispered, then pulled the door shut. The lock clicked. I stayed on the floor for 10 seconds listening to their footsteps. Then I stopped crying. I stood, wiped my cheeks, and looked at the papers. They thought they had broken me, but they had given me exactly what I needed. Once I heard the elevator, my tears vanished. I headed to the bathroom to wash away the fake distress. I caught my reflection and offered a cold, calculated smile. They thought they cornered a victim, but they just handed a loaded weapon to a pro. I grabbed my encrypted laptop and headed for my office. Spencer was arrogant and sloppy. He underestimated my hardware. My federal laptop was a security trap built to catch corporate spies. When he touched the screen at the party, the system activated a silent defense protocol. It logged every Bluetooth and wireless signal within 10 feet. I pulled the logs. 3 devices. The sister's watch, the mother's phone, and Spencer's high-end smartphone. By logging his ID, my system tagged him with a digital beacon. I launched my forensic tracking software, a restricted tool for hunting global cybercrimes. I entered Spencer's data and hit execute. Green code flickered as the tool hunted his activity. Since he hit my Wi-Fi during their blackmail visit, I had his IP address. I was inside his digital life. Browsing history, chats, bank records, all mine. I shredded his security like paper. I was digging for dirt on that $5 million real estate scam. Fake loans, inflated assets, and desperate emails between him and his partner, Julian. I found the whole mess. Their business was a ticking bomb. Digging through Julian's files, I hit a password-locked drive. Took an hour to crack. My jaw dropped. A secret ledger of wire transfers. Julian had a shell company in the Caymans. Massive cash deposits every week. Thousands. Scrubbed through crypto to hide the trail. I leaned in. I know those routing codes by heart. Forensic accounting is my life. These were local charity accounts from right here in Seattle. My pulse raced. I ran the numbers through the federal database. The results confirmed my worst nightmares. This wasn't real estate money. It was stolen. Every cent was siphoned from a local charity, the one my in-laws, Sarah and Marcus, bragged about constantly. A fund for struggling students and single moms. Julian wasn't just hiding bad debt. My brother-in-law was bleeding a vulnerable community dry, using his wife's family name as a shield. He was robbing the people they claimed to help. I had the receipts, digital, cold, hard proof. I had to know how deep this went. I traced the offshore cash. He wasn't saving it. He was dumping it into volatile crypto like a gambling addict. His trading record was pathetic, reckless, arrogant, and way out of his depth. I matched the transfer dates to church events. The pattern was sick. A November fundraiser, $300,000 gone 2 days later. An April housing drive, $400,000 vaporized a week later. He treated $2 million in charity grants like casino chips, doubling down, chasing losses, praying for a win to hide the theft. But the crypto bubble burst and his margin calls wiped him out. I checked the final wallet, 0. The money was gone, $2 million, deleted, leaving only broken promises. The desperation clicked. The whole family was as on a sinking ship. If auditors found that $5 million hole in the firm, the family books would be ripped open. That scrutiny would lead agents straight to the stolen church funds. They weren't saving a business. They were scrambling to dodge decades in prison, and they chose me as the fall guy. A cold, sharp clarity replaced my fear. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I don't just crunch numbers, I dismantle international syndicates. Breaking a corrupt family and their arrogant son-in-law? Easy. I started a new file, Operation House of Cards. That linked Julian to the extortion. Next, I mapped the stolen charity funds from the local bank to the Cayman shell, then to his empty crypto wallets. I built an undeniable timeline. I flagged their fraudulent loans. Finally, I uploaded the audio and video from my hidden camera. Yvonne ordering the attack, Jasmine snapping photos, Julian admitting to the retinal scan. A masterpiece of evidence. No lawyer could save them. But the feds weren't enough. They wanted to humiliate me and destroy my career in front of the elite. Fine, I would give them a show. I laid out every crime, from real estate fraud to embezzlement. I didn't hit send. I set a dead man switch for 8 p.m. Friday. The exact moment Marcus and Sarah were set for their anniversary toast, they would be in that mansion. Surrounded by donors and the church elders they had robbed, they expected me to be a broken, hiding pawn. I watched the clock. 3 days to play the defeated woman. I would look my husband in the eyes and lie. They would think they had won. Right until the floor dropped out. I just had to show up and watch them crumble. Morning came, but the exhaustion was gone. I felt weirdly calm. Friday night was looming. I sipped coffee, watching the city wake up. I needed to call Derek. If I stayed silent, they would panic and leak the fake photos. I had to feed their egos and play the part of a woman whose world was burning. I stared at Derek's name. He exhaled, steadying my heart. I forced my shoulders to slump. I let a tear prick my eye, thickened my voice, and dialed. He answered immediately. I added a pathetic, choked sob. I cannot lose my career, Derek. It is all I have. I clawed my way up from nothing. Your family has all the power. I know I cannot fight you. I know you will ruin me. He chuckled, a sound of pure narcissistic victory. Glad you are finally seeing reality, babe, he said smoothly. Makes things easier. Did you bypass that federal firewall? Yes, I lied, my voice shaking. I wrote the script. I can clear the logs without triggering the director. I will sign the $5 million papers. I will do whatever your mother wants. But Derek, one condition. His tone hardened. You are not in a position to make demands, Alicia. It is not a demand, I pleaded, acting terrified. It is a request. I want to sign and transfer the funds at the anniversary gala Friday night. She thinks I am just an outsider who does not respect the family. If I do this in secret, she will keep holding those photos over me. I want to prove my loyalty. I will sacrifice my federal standing to protect the sterling name. I need her to see me as one of them, so she finally leaves me alone. Silence. I could hear his arrogant mind working. To others, this sounded insane. To a family of narcissists, it was the ultimate tribute. They loved the idea of breaking a federal accountant in their own home. You really want to kiss the ring that badly? Derek scoffed. I just want to be safe, I whispered, letting another fake sob slip out. All right, he said, sounding smug. You can sign in the study during the gala. Bring your laptop. Wear something appropriate, he commanded. This is a black tie event. Do not embarrass us. I will not, Derek. I whispered my promise. He hung up. My shaking stopped instantly. I grabbed the garment bag I bought months ago. Dark silk spilled out. The next 2 days were a blur of digital dossiers and dead man switches. The Sterling family thought they owned me. Friday night hit. The sun set, shadows stretched across my place, and I showered, scrubbing away the phantom feeling of their touch. I styled my hair sharp. My makeup was precise, weaponized. Deep red lipstick matched the floor-length crimson gown, waiting in my bedroom. I pulled it on. It fit perfectly. It was bold, lethal, and demanding. Not a victim, but an executioner. I zipped the heavy silk and stepped into black stilettos. I grabbed my clutch, slipping in a flash drive loaded with every secret church embezzlement, real estate fraud, a digital bomb for the Sterling mansion. I tucked my laptop under my arm. One final look. Zero fear, just focus. I killed the lights and drove to the estate. 45 minutes later. The valet looked confused at my commuter car parked among their mountain of luxury metal. Bentleys gleamed under security lights. I walked inside. The mansion was transformed for their 35th anniversary gala. Roses dripped from the stairs. Jazz played. Waiters glided by with champagne. The city elite were everywhere: politicians, developers, church leaders. They laughed, totally oblivious that their hosts were drowning in $5 million of bad debt. Derek stood by the entrance, bourbon in hand, looking like the heir to an empire. His eyes widened the second he saw me. He scanned the red dress. A flicker of attraction passed, then his ego took over. He grabbed my waist, pulling me close. You followed orders, he whispered. Smelling of booze, perfect, obedient wife. Keep that energy in the study. I flashed a compliant smile. I will do whatever the family needs, Malcolm. I kept my voice steady. Before he could speak, Yvonne swooped in like a hawk. She wore heavy gold, demanding every eye. Look at our little charity case, she announced. Her nails dug into my arm. Come here, Alicia, she barked, dragging me away. I have people for you to meet. She paraded me like a trophy, turning every introduction into a public jab at my working-class roots. She told a judge I was a charity project. She told a surgeon I was a pauper rescued from mediocrity. She even told the pastor I was a lost soul. I endured it with a fake smile, biting my tongue until I tasted copper. I just nodded, letting them pity me while they praised Yvonne. My clutch felt heavy with that flash drive. Across the ballroom, I spotted Jasmine and Spencer near the ice sculpture. Spencer was shaking hands with the church elders he had just robbed blind, oblivious that his offshore accounts were empty. I watched him clink glasses. Enjoy the drink. Spencer, it is the last expensive thing you will ever buy as a free man. I checked the clock. 7:45. My server shutdown was minutes away. Malcolm grabbed my elbow. Time to go, he murmured. Dad and the lawyers are waiting. Don't mess this up. He steered me away from the jazz toward a dark, secluded hallway. The change from the ballroom to this cold corridor felt jarring. Arthur, their fixer lawyer, stood there like a bouncer. He opened the study doors. I stepped in. The room smelled of cigars and was lit only by a green banker's lamp. Calvin sat behind his desk, looking furious. As soon as the doors clicked, he moved. He slammed a $5 million contract onto the desk. Beside it, a gold pen. Sign, he demanded. Arthur will notarize everything and clear those audit flags. We have a party to finish, and I am not babysitting a paranoid girl all night. Malcolm loomed behind me. Then the door swung open and Victoria swept in with Julian. She smirked at the papers. Go on, Elena, she sneered. Prove your loyalty. Pick up the pen. I kept my hands down. Breathing ragged, I faked a panic attack. No, I whispered, voice trembling. Not here. Robert slammed his fist. Think you have a choice? Stop the games, Malcolm hissed. Sign, or those photos go to your boss. I shrank away, tears stinging my eyes. I am not changing the deal, I cried, faking total terror. I will sign and clear that audit, but not hiding away like a secret. Julian sighed. Why care? It matters. I watched Victoria closely. I know your game. If I sign in private, you will just use those photos to blackmail me again. You will never trust me. I want to sign on the main stage. When you give your toast, bring me up. Tell everyone I am joining the family trust. Tell them I am pledging my career to your empire. If I sign away $5 million of my credit publicly, I am trapped forever. This proves my submission. Diane, it binds me to you for good. Give me the public humiliation I earned, but promise you will delete those photos. The room went silent. I saw the greed warring in Diane's eyes. Arthur the lawyer stepped up. Diane, this is irregular, he warned. We do not need a spectacle. But Diane silenced him with a wave. She loved the idea of a power trip. She wanted to parade me before her circle. Arthur, you lack vision. Diane purred. It is brilliant. Let the investors see the government wants a piece of us. She grabbed the pen. She turned to Silas with a triumphant grin. Bring her to the stage, Evelyn commanded. We are doing the toast now. And our charity case is going to sign her life away. Silas smirked, looking at me like I was something pathetic. He gripped my lower back. A vice disguised as a gesture. He grabbed my laptop with his other hand. Let us go make you an official Kensington babe, he whispered. Arthur opened the doors, and the jazz band flooded the hallway. We stepped out of the shadows into the blinding lights of the grand foyer. Evelyn and Arthur led the way, looking like royalty. Julian trailed, looking smug. Silas escorted me through the wealthy crowd. People parted, offering congratulations to the beautiful couple. I kept my head bowed, playing the defeated woman walking to the executioner. But inside, my heart hammered with fierce, unstoppable adrenaline. We reached the ballroom stage behind a crystal podium. The jazz faded as Julian and Clara approached the microphones. The elite crowd went silent, turning toward the stage. Marcus shoved me up the velvet stairs until I stood beside the podium. Hundreds of wealthy eyes locked onto their daughter-in-law in a red gown, clutching a black purse. I stood under the bright chandeliers. The scale was huge, but my heart beat with steady calm. Julian reached the podium and tapped the mic. The feedback echoed, demanding attention. Welcome to our anniversary, he boomed, voice thick with fake warmth. Tonight is about honoring our legacy. We are proud to announce that my son's future bride is joining the trust. She will sign a commercial guarantee to prove her devotion to our empire. The crowd erupted into applause. Investors smiled, unaware of the extortion happening in front of them. Julian gestured for me to take his place. Marcus nudged me forward, hand pressing into my spine. I walked to the mic. I placed my federal laptop on the podium next to the documents and a heavy gold pen. I did not reach for the pen. Instead, I looked at Julian and then Clara, who stood nearby, radiating arrogance. Before I sign my life away, I said, voice clear, I think we should display the deeds. I want everyone in Seattle to see what assets this family owns. I want the world to see the properties I am guaranteeing. Julian puffed his chest, eager to show off his wealth. He thought I was finally submitting. Feeding his massive ego, he nodded to the tech guy. The tech handed me the cable. I plugged it into my laptop. The giant screen behind us went black as it synced to my secure machine. I pulled a metallic flash drive from my purse. My hands were steady. I inserted the drive and opened the encrypted folder from the night before. I ignored the $5 million contract on the podium. I double-clicked the first file. The projector hit the stage with a blinding light. The image flashed onto the 20-foot screen in high definition. It was not a real estate deed. It was the horrific photo Jasmine took in the living room. It showed me lying limp on the Italian leather, blouse unbuttoned. It showed my brother-in-law Spencer pressing his body against mine, hand on my stomach, lips near my neck. The image was gigantic and impossible to misinterpret. The ballroom exploded. A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Someone in the front row dropped a crystal flute, shattering it against the floor. Politicians and developers stared at the screen, mouths hanging open in total disbelief. The senior pastor, who had praised Clara earlier, covered his eyes and backed away. In the crowd, I saw Spencer freeze, color drained from his face, leaving him like a ghost. Jasmine stood next to him, watching her own twisted photography broadcast to the city elite. Her jaw dropped and her hands shook. On stage, the perfect illusion shattered. Marcus stumbled away, eyes darting from the disgusting image to my calm face. The reality finally crashed into his brain. He tried to grab my laptop, but I shifted, blocking him and bracing against the podium. Clara let out a sound like a wounded animal. The elegant matriarch mask dissolved. She lunged toward the podium, gown catching the lights, looking completely unhinged. "Turn it off!" she shrieked, voice stripped of all charm. "Turn that screen off right now." But I was faster. I grabbed the heavy metal microphone. I stepped away from the podium, putting distance between me and Clara's grasping hands. I held the mic close, feeling a surge of power. "Do not adjust your glasses, ladies and gentlemen," I announced, voice echoing like thunder across the room. "What you are looking at is not an affair. It is a fabricated lie. It is a blackmail photo staged by the hosts of this gala." The crowd went silent. The musicians stopped. Clara froze, staring at me with terror and rage. Arthur stood by the podium, stunned that his triumph had turned into a public execution. "This family drugged me," I said, pacing the stage. "They waited until I was unconscious, stripped me, and forced their son-in-law to pose for that photo. They threatened to leak the image unless I signed a $5 million fraudulent contract." Marcus snapped out of his shock. "Shut your mouth, Elena," he roared, fists clenched. "She is lying," he yelled, voice cracking. "She is a paranoid mess trying to ruin us." Yvonne waved at the technician, screaming to cut the power. "Cut the main power to the stage right now." "You idiot!" The technician looked terrified, unsure who to follow during this meltdown. His he did not matter. My laptop ran on its own battery and had total control. I turned my back on them, ignoring their pathetic shrieking. I walked to the laptop and hit the space bar. The giant screen flickered. The blackmail photo vanished. The room went dark for a second before the projector lit up again. High-definition footage from my hidden button camera began to play. The audio filled the room, playing Yvonne's cold voice ordering them to strip me. Everyone listened to her commands on a loop. I watched the elite turn with revulsion. The state judge Yvonne introduced me to walk toward the exit, shaking his head. Wealthy investors, the backbone of the estate empire, whispered furiously, grabbing phones to contact their legal teams. They knew if this family was committing fraud, their money was in danger. The untouchable reputation was disintegrating. Arthur stood frozen, chest heaving as he realized his career was over. The legacy he bragged about for 30 years died in minutes. "I am a senior forensic accountant for the federal government," I said into the mic. "I audit massive corporate accounts for fraud. They did not assault me just because they are cruel. They are desperate criminals. The Miller real estate firm is just a house of cards. They are drowning in $5 million of fake commercial debt. And the feds audit them this Tuesday." The ballroom went silent, then exploded. I saw their family pastor, the man who blessed them an hour ago, step back in shock. Arthur tried to speak, but his legs failed him. He gripped the podium, looking pathetic. His voice was lost in the roar of the crowd. He invited these elites to mock me, but he actually built the perfect stage for his own ruin. They looked at him like he was garbage. They knew I had the security clearance to scrub their audit logs. I paced the floor, watching the crowd. They also knew I would never commit a felony for them. They set a trap, drugged me, staged a fake photo with their son-in-law, and demanded I sign a $5 million liability contract or lose my career. They assumed a girl from nothing would fear losing status. They were wrong. Marcus stormed over, face twisted. "You will pay, Elena," he spat. "We will bury you in legal fees." I just stared back, icy. "You cannot sue me for the truth, Marcus. And you definitely cannot sue from inside a federal prison cell for fraud." Yvonne clung to the wall, shaking. She was gasping, hair a mess. Her socialite friends stared with pure disgust. The city queen was gone, replaced by a common criminal exposed as a monster. It was the justice I needed. Then, a sharp scream broke the silence. "You are a liar, a psycho." Clara shoved through the crowd, pointing right at me. "My parents built this firm from nothing," she shrieked. "You are just a jealous gold digger." "Spencer did nothing wrong. We tried to help you." The guests parted, leaving her isolated by the stage. Spencer stood behind her, pale and sweating. He was not protecting his wife, he was backing toward the door like a rat. I locked eyes with Clara. "I did not make this up, Clara," I whispered. "Your parents are broke and your brother is a coward. But the worst part is the man you married." I tapped my laptop, shifting the video to a spreadsheet filled with dates and massive red numbers. The room fell silent. "Look at the left column," I said, my voice cold. "Those are routing numbers for the St. Jude Charity Fund, the one you all support. The one the Vances pretend to manage. Check the right column. Those are wire transfers to a shell company in the Cayman Islands." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I watched the lead donor turn pale. "Last November, you raised $300,000 for the youth center. 48 hours later, that cash vanished into the Cayman account." The whispers turned into shouting. "Who owns that account?" the donor screamed. I turned toward Marcus, frozen by the door. I pointed straight at him. "The firm is linked to a private digital wallet," I announced. "But criminals leave a trail." When Marcus tried to hack my laptop, my system logged his hardware ID. When he broke into my home, he used my Wi-Fi. That let me trace his connection to his crypto wallets. I clicked the next slide. His digital footprint matched the Cayman login perfectly. Absolute proof. My voice echoed. He used his family name to fool the church board. He siphoned charity funds into offshore accounts, then moved it into high-risk crypto. He played the tech genius, but he was just reckless. He gambled on a fortune before the audit. The market crashed, and his leveraged bets were gone. I paused. I accessed his wallet using the backdoors he left wide open. The charity fund is at zero. Every scholarship, it is all gone, spent covering his gambling debts. Total chaos broke out. Board members were screaming. Security guards moved toward the back, blocking Marcus. Two donors grabbed his blazer. "You are not going anywhere," one yelled. Sarah stood in the center, hysterical, finally realizing her husband was a fraud. Clara slid down the well, sobbing as the high society she loved turned in an angry mob. Arthur gripped the podium, gasping for air. Their 40-year legacy was finished. They were ruined financially, socially, and legally. I had burned their house of cards down. Elias had been paralyzed, but the reality of his ruin finally snapped him. The golden son, having lost his inheritance in seconds, lost his mind. He let out a primal roar. I turned just in time to see his eyes roll back, face a mask of rage. The charming air was gone, replaced by a cornered animal. "You ruined my life, you liar," he roared. Before I could move, Elias lunged across the stage, fists raised. He covered the distance in a heartbeat. I did not flinch. I watched his gentleman persona die. Just as he reached for my throat, two men in suits stepped from the curtains. Not caterers. I had hired them from a security firm days ago. The first guard caught Elias mid-stride. Hitting him in the chest, air rushed out of his lungs. The second guard slammed him face first onto the stage. The impact echoed like a gunshot. Elias groaned as a boot pinned him down. Sarah sobbed, watching her brother treated like a common criminal. Arthur tried to move, but one sharp glare from the guard froze him. He raised his hands, surrendering. Then, another sound cut through the noise. Sirens. Multiple police cruisers screaming through the neighborhood. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows. casting shadows over the terrified elite. The heavy doors burst open. A dozen agents in tactical gear stormed the mansion, ignoring the guests. Leading them was Agent Vance. The man had sent my encrypted evidence 2 days ago. He clutched a stack of files, looking ready to dismantle the family. "Secure the perimeter," he commanded, voice booming. "Nobody leaves." The ballroom turned to chaos. Agents tracked down Julian, who was scrambling behind a statue. They grabbed him by his collar, dragging him across the floor. Julian sobbed as they cuffed him. "You are under arrest for wire fraud and stealing $2 million from the charity," the agent announced. On stage, Agent Vance marched up the stairs. He glared at Arthur, who was shaking so hard he could barely stand. "Arthur, you are under arrest for corporate fraud and hiding $5 million in assets," he declared. "Give me your wrists." Arthur slowly extended his arms. The arrogant patriarch, who ordered me to surrender everything an hour ago, was powerless. He looked broken. On the floor, Elena watched her husband and son-in-law shackled. The shock was too much. She collapsed. And her former socialite friends literally stepped over her to escape. I calmly closed my laptop. I tucked my clutch under my arm and walked to the edge of the stage where Julian was pinned. I descended the steps with grace. I stopped, looking down at the man who vowed to destroy me. My stiletto heel came to rest 1 inch from his terrified face. Julian rolled his eyes up, struggling to breathe. He was pathetic. The entitled golden boy was gone. "You thought I was just some clueless girl who did not belong, Julian," I said. "But you forgot one thing about forensic accountants. We do not just look at numbers, we dig for the truth that greedy people try to bury. You tried to use my career as a weapon, but it became my armor." I leaned in to whisper. "Next time you want to drug a woman, make sure she is not wearing a federal wire. Enjoy prison, sweetheart. They do not serve champagne there." I straightened my gown and nodded to the agent. I walked out of the mansion, stepping past the flashing lights. 6 months later, the Kensington estate empire had vanished. Without the fake assets, the banks called in every debt. The feds raided that mansion. Gates chained shut, weeds choking the lawn, a total wreck. Victor got 20 years for that embezzlement scheme. Sarah tried to divorce him to save herself, but the neighbors turned their backs, leaving her broke. She bolted to a tiny studio out of state, working retail just to scrape by. And those 2 cronies, Ben and Greg, they are serving 15 years behind bars, a long way from their private golf clubs. As for Claire, her nightmare is just starting. Without those stolen millions, she is wasting away in a roach-infested flat in the same neighborhood she used to mock me for. Her rich social circle will not even acknowledge her. As for me, I am thriving. I used my experience from the Logan case to launch my own forensic firm. I have a corner office in downtown Chicago with an incredible view. I am the one in charge now. I turned my darkest days into a real career. I found the kind of success I always wanted. Nobody messes with me. Don't let them call you crazy while they are the ones poisoning your world. Gaslighting is just a sick trick toxic people use to ruin you. But the truth? It always leaves a paper trail. Ever felt like someone close was secretly your worst enemy? How did you expose them and take your power back? Tell me your story in the comments. If you enjoyed watching that toxic group finally get what they deserved, hit the like button and subscribe for more tales of justice, grit, and real-life revenge.